Welcome to 8km to beat. Today is just not any day. It's the day when I'm trying the new Landrover Defender from 2020. This is a car that I wanted to try for quite a while. And today we're going to try it. And I'm very thankful to Bill Monson, British Cars in Halmstad and Land Rover of Sweden. Because they were kind enough to borrow me this car and to try it out and to film it and to show it for you guys. The tires on this one is 255 by 60 on a 20-inch rim. I think this rim size is kind of the preferred one. Maybe you could go a little bit lower if you want more air volume on your tires. The Land Rover Defender comes with air suspension, and it has individual front and rear suspension. In my world, this car looks really cool. In the front it says Defender and you have the Land Rover logotype. It has cameras all around the place and it has some nice square headlights with the feeling of the roundness. So that is kind of like what the old Defenders had. In the top you have some feeling of aluminum plating. I think that's also a feature that the older Land Rovers had. So there's some similarities where they had been inspired of the old. Under the hood in this Defender there's a 4-cylinder diesel engine which Land Rover developed himself. Besides this diesel engine, I think there's two other engine options, a 4-cylinder turbocharged gasoline and a straight 6 turbocharged gasoline. They have representative of 300 horsepower and the straight 6 has like 400 horsepower, so quite a lot of power. But even if there's a lot of power, this is a big car, and I suppose that they put those horsepowers to work on the low torque and stuff like that. It feels nice, and if you look around in the engine department there's quite a lot of space, so if you ever have any issues with this, it should not be that kind of car where the mechanic has to remove everything and it's going to cost you a lot of money. And also if you're having some problems on the trail or on your expeditions and stuff like that, you can get your hands down in this engine and maybe fix it yourself. This Land Rover has air suspension and it has 3 different modes. It has this mode that I am in now, which is a low mode that makes it easier for you to get in and out and also load it. And then it has the normal height, which is the one I go up to now. And then it has a off-road height. I must say that the way this looks when you have it in the high mode, I really like that. That's more my taste. That's probably how I would drive it around most of the time because it just looks cool. But with the air suspension it's really nice because you have the options to like choose it how you want it. So if you're driving it in the city, or if you well, maybe if you're driving it in the city, that's where you kind of want to like show off a little bit and have it high. But if you're going on the highway and you're just gonna like go on the highway mile after mile and like that, then lowering it is gonna be pretty nice. So you have the options, and I know some people don't like the air suspension, and if you don't like that, you have the Defender 90s model that have an option to come without the air suspension, and otherwise you have the air suspension, and I think it's nice. If you service it, it should be reliable. Like with everything else, if you take care of it, stuffs are generally reliable. In the back you have the spare tire hanging on the door. I like that a lot. It adds a lot onto the styling, but it's also here for practical reasons, because if you're going in an off-road situation and you would have the tires in your trunk area, that would like build down under the car, and that would make it's prone to hit stuffs under the car. You want as much clearance under the car as possible. The door of this car has like a regular door, and it's pretty cool because they put electronics in this. So if it's wind and stuff like that, it kind of makes sure that the wind doesn't catch the door and clamp you there. So that's a good feature added. And it opens up widely, and you could fit a lot of stuffs in here. You could also rise up the seat, so it's a 7-seater. At the moment, my camera stuff is here, but we're gonna get that out, like maybe like this. So if you're gonna bring kids and stuff like that, you could fold up this extra seats, and you will have 7 seats options in this one. Now, question is how you get down it. Oh, really easy, just ups and down. As you see, the trunk is roomy. You have all the space you need. Well, maybe not all the space you need, because when you fill something up, there's always a need for more space. But at least with this Defender, you have the possibility to fill it up with quite a lot of stuff, and that's also nice. Around in the car, you have like small storage areas, like almost everywhere, which is really nice for your small stuffs that you don't want to like having them to move around all the time. Another neat feature here is that you could move out a hinge in the back, and there's also a possibility to increase the height from the behind on the car. So if you're gonna load stuff into the car, you just push a button here and it goes down a little bit, so it will be easier for you to load a car. But at the moment I have it in the highest mode, and that's not the optimal loading way. So if I'm pushing the button to make it lower, it just goes down a little bit. But if you have it in the regular road mode, it goes down to the lowest mode, and you could load this car in and out with equipment really easy without like having to lift it really high. But it's also a neat feature, because if you're having stuffs that you want to access, you could choose the height you want the stuffs in, so that's nice. Here's one of the storages in the door, which there is a lot of like small neat storages, and you could like put smaller stuffs in this. This is also a neat little feature. A lot of cars require you to have a warning triangle with you all the time, and this is the solution Land Rover had to that. A little storage where you have your warning triangle. That is really nice, and it's always accessible. The storage in this door proves a quite important point for an off-roader, that they really thought this through, because most other cars, where do they put this warning triangle? Yeah, they put it like under like some storage here. But the issue with that is, if you are packed down, you're not going to reach that, and the like chances of have a use for this one and being packed up, that's those two things goes hand in hand. So it's nice that since they thought this through, that probably means that there's a lot of other stuff on this car that they really thought through. The interior of this car is nice. I guess you could call this interior practical, in the sense there's not the kind of luxury as you would see in some of the luxury SUVs. And in my way, that's a good thing, because this is a practical car and you want that practicality. There's storages all the way around it, even behind the entertainment system. There's a small storage behind this, there's storage down here, there's probably a storage here as well. So quite a lot of storages where you could put stuffs. So you are going to be able to bring all your small gadgets and things with you that you need when you're doing off-road. There's also storage here for your glasses and stuff like that. When it comes to the infotainment system, I'm not going to go into details on that, but it's a nice system. It responsive, and when you're pushing the buttons here, they are responding as you want. As you could probably say, the feeling you have on your smartphone, that's the feeling you have on this infotainment system as well. This one comes with a solar roof, which opens up in different steps. The first one, you just open up the back a little bit, and then it goes fully open. And whenever you want, you could stop it. If you don't want a solar roof, there's also the possibility to completely close it off. Though I personally, I like the solar roof, so I would want to have it open as often as possible, because I think when you're closing this, it gets pretty dark in here, and just letting all this light in, this gives a lot of room. So what could we say about the Landrover Defender? My first impressions and this little look on it is that I like it a lot. It's given me the impression of it, it's really nice. It's a solid car, it feels like a good car, and I would love to really go into detail with this car and maybe take it from for an off-road or stuff like that. We'll see how that will work out in the future, because this is a dealer's car, probably gonna get sold, and taking a car off-road is, well, it's an off-road, everything could happen on the trail. But it has all the tech, it has low range, it has different terrain mode, it had hill descents, you could make it higher, so you have the clearance under the car. There's a lot of cameras all around the car, so you could see where the stones are, and there's all the things you would want to have in the off-road situation to avoid damaging your car and get through the trail. I think this would be a really nice overlander. It's definitely not a crawler. You don't take this to crawl over big stones and stuff like that, but it will take you out in nature, it will take you on an expedition, and it will take you through most of the trails, but the limit is probably stone crawling. So, but maybe if you want to go stone crawling, maybe you should get something else, and you should not get a Defender. But for everything else, the Defender is definitely one way to go, and it's a really nice car. This is my first ever driving experience of the new Landrover Defender. I'm gonna take it on a regular road and see how it feels driving it. First impressions is that it feels very quiet and comfortable. It feels quite soft in the steering, but it still feels well behaved, and it goes really straight and nice. Don't think you could expect anything else from a new car. And when you're sitting and looking around in it, you are sitting pretty high. You have that feeling of like being almost like a king of the world in it. It doesn't feel like you're driving a typical cross-roader. You have that feeling that you get when you're driving a proper off-roader. You are having a good visibility around you. The mirrors are really nice. You see a lot of the hood when you're driving it. Which is really nice. I like that. I enjoy seeing the hood and seeing the whole front of it. The worst thing I know is those kinds of cars where you don't see the hood at all and you have no idea where you are. But in this one, you're seeing it really well and you know exactly where it is. And if that wouldn't be enough, there's a lot of off-road tech in this when it comes to cameras all around it, so you could like really see where the car is around you. So now I have a good possibility to floor it, and it moves, but it's not a speed sensation in it. It's it's a Landrover Defender. It's nothing that you're buying or using for like having like having like fast accelerations and stuff like that. It's an off-roader, so that's not what you want. Well, maybe you want it, but that's not what you get in like proper off-roaders. It has the potential to shift gearing manually though, which is pretty nice. It's an automatic gearbox, which is my preferred way to go in off-roaders. I'm going to test the low range gearing, putting it in low, and now I'm in the low range, and it should crawl really nice, and it feels like any other low range gearing. It just crawls very lightly when you're moving. You don't have to put quite a lot of throttle response to get it to move around. So just as an off-roader should be. Now I have to drive back and return this car, which is unfortunate. I wouldn't mind to take it back home, but going home I'm going to ride it in the highest mode on the suspension, just to see how that feels. And that is just out of curiosity, because it looks cooler when it's high. So I'm curious to see how it feels. And at the moment I'm also going downhill, so I'm gonna push on that hill descent control. And that's pretty cool. It really like slows down and it adjusts the speed. So let's see what if I turn it off. And now it's gonna like accelerate and it increases in speed. And if I turn it on, it's gonna start to adjust the speed by itself. That is neat. I wonder how it does that though. I think it works a little bit with the brakes. Now I'm just man guessing, but I think it works with the brakes by adjusting that. And you should be aware that if you are on a long descent, like going over a mountain pass and stuff like that, you should use the gearing to adjust the speed downhill. And for that you could just put it into manual mode and put it in first, second, or whichever gear you think is most appropriate for that, and then you just like moving down. Here we also have a flat area, and I'm gonna see how fast it is. Well, it's when you push in the gas, stuff happens. It's not a fast car, as I mentioned before, but stuff happens. And driving it in the high mode is it works pretty good, feels good. If you're moving the steering wheel, the car is very stable. It's not like the older SUVs where you basically like sitting like this and drive it. I'm tried out the high mode, and what I'm gonna do now is that I'm gonna put it in the lower mode and take it for a drive on regular roads, and you still feel pretty high up on it. I think that feeling of being high up remains all the time. And ahead of us we have some small turny roads, and it feels good on those roads.
Wow.
It's not a sport car feel, but it's not either like old SUV car feeling where it like moves around everywhere. So it behaves really well on the roads. I'm curious if I could make it higher during driving, and it seems like if I'm pushing the terrain button while driving, it actually adapts. Perhaps that is like depending on speed or anything like that, but it works. One thing that I really like with driving the Landrover Defender is that you feel very clearly what this car is meant and built for. It is a proper off-roader, and you having that feeling of being rugged. It feels strong, it feels beefy. It's not just a all-wheel drive car that is meant for being safer on the roads. It's meant for actually going off-road, and that is, in my opinion, that's a really good feeling, and it's a really good thing. You clearly feel that this is the real deal. They definitely found their niche when it comes to off-roading and stuff like that. And I think the only thing this can't do really well is rock crawling, but everything else you will be, it will take you where you want to go. Ahead of me I have a pretty steep hill. It has a gradient of 12%, which is a interesting test to see if the car feels strong and if it has the torque and stuff like that, and it definitely has. There's no problem at all to get up this hill. Even if this is a big car, it's easy to drive. It's easy to move around, and you don't feel like you're having like a big brick on the wall. It feels like quite nimble, even though it's quite big. And that's a nice feeling, because you get used to driving it really quick. When you first sit into it, the impression, well, at least the impression I got was like, it's a little bit big, I don't really know where I have it, but just now, after been driving it for basically maybe 15 minutes, driving down one road to the film spot, filming it, and driving back up, it already feels easy to handle. The steering wheel is light but still quite responsive, and depending on what you like, you might have opinions about that. Most important thing is the responsiveness of it. I don't like cars that have a steering wheel or steering where you like moving it and there's not much happening, but while this one, you feel like from the moment you're turning it, there's something happening, and that gives you a good control on the car. And also, if you take your hands off the steering wheel or just like holding the steering wheel quite relaxed, it goes straight. Well, of course, you should not expect anything else from a new car, but this one tracks really well, and that's also a really nice thing. Also seems like this one is a little bit of a head turner. I see passing some people and they are like moving the head. That could be for many reasons. That could be of the vinyl wrappings on the car, but it could also be because of the way it actually looks. I think it's maybe a combination of both. It is a quite big car. It has a quite unique look to it. That is probably discussable, but it has a quite unique look compared to many other cars. So that makes people curious. A big thank you to the people who borrowed me this car and to let me try this. It's been really nice to trying it, and also keep in mind that there is a playlist on my channel that features a lot of more off-road, where you're driving off-roads and stuff like that. Check that in as well if you are into off-roading and stuff like that. And in the future we will see if I'm gonna get the possibility to do off-roading with this. If you like this kind of content and want to see more car reviews, you should click here to see a playlist about that. Click over here to subscribe. So thanks for watching, and I see you later.